A surefire way to success, in my mind, is, well, it's not exactly a Mad TV sketch, but it's the name of a Mad TV sketch called Lowered Expectations. It was a dating, it was like a mail-in videotape dating thing because, Mad TV was from the 90s. But the concept of lowered expectations is legitimately one of the things that I think really improves the viewing experience of lesser movies. Why I say that is because The Condemned 2 was made by WWE Studios. This is a WWE Studio slam, and my basic expectations were that this would probably be a copy paste from the first film. And after the open rolls, I will break down what actually came from the truth of The Condemned 2 and not just my expectations for the film. To follow up on the concept of expectations, when I see Eric Roberts, I expect for him to be a bad guy. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just that often it seems like he is playing the villainous role. But those expectations, just like the expectation of the movie being a copy of the first, were both absolutely wrong. And so Eric Roberts is not the villain of the film, which is cool. I thought that was a good thing. He's actually the father of Randy Orton, which is, well, his name is Will Tanner, but I thought it was funny because I know Randy Orton's father, and it isn't Eric Roberts who plays Frank Tanner. Yeah, Randy's real life dad isn't Eric Roberts. He doesn't look like Eric Roberts. He doesn't act like Eric Roberts. But Eric Roberts does a good job being a very familiar father figure in my mind. A very strict, high expectations. A guy who's like, "Oh, I made this for you. You can't, don't squander it," type thing. Because Frank Tanner got a bounty hunter business off the ground. I think they called them bail enforcement agents. That's what they called the company, if you will, the concept of what they were doing. And so Frank Tanner is long taken himself out of the field. Will Tanner has a whole team of guys, 5 other bail enforcement agents, to help pick up, get, stop, whatever you want to call it, bad guys from doing bad guy things. The funny thing is, the first mission we see them go on to enforce some bail bonds is a failure from the team. Well, maybe not complete failure. It might actually just be a straight up failure. Like, these 6 guys who are trying to be non lethal accidentally are involved with the death of the guy who they're trying to get brought to justice. And so then his second in command becomes the new top guy in the bad guy hierarchy. And so we jump to 6 months later, I think it is, maybe it was 9 months, 6, 9 months, whatever it was. We jump to the future where Will has pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter due to the bail hopping bad guy ended up not making it to his day in court. And Frank Tanner is not happy that Will did this. He's like, "Man, you're tarnishing the legacy, the reputation of my company I created, like the business." Obviously, Will's primary goal was to not spend time behind bars. So when he took the plea deal, all of his time behind bars got pushed to one side as long as he keeps his nose clean. And so instead of enforcing bail bonds, he's now working with a tow truck to help people who are broke down, busted tires, things of that nature. And his first day on the job, or the new job, he bumps into one of his old teammates who thought that his battery had died, but it was really just a cable was loose. This leads to them going to get a drink because, catching up, it's been a few months and everything is different, obviously. This is the beginning of the new concept of the condemned. So the first guy, the first mission, the bail that went awry that led to the man no longer being with us and can't face his day in court, they were enforcing a bail because he was running an illegal gambling ring. And his illegal gambling was it almost felt like it wanted to be a PG Saw or a very approachable visually kind of torture. And so the guy was overdosing two people. And then rich people were betting on which one would live, which one would die first. They were betting on some of the strangest and most awkward, uncomfortable things. And we see that happening while we meet the whole team of bail enforcement agents. But the funny thing was, when the movie was popping up each character's name and what they're good at, I wasn't paying attention because I didn't know it was relevant due to the fact that I expected the movie to be the same as or similar to the first film, where Will, or Randy, would be dropped into a fight scenario with strangers, primarily cons. I just assumed, the Condemned 2 would be similar to or follow the pattern of the Condemned 1. And so I was so far off that I didn't really pay attention when each of the characters were given their backstory in a flash of text on the screen, a little like bio, if you will. And so when Will bumps into his old teammate, they're on the side of the road and they go out for drinks. I was like, oh, okay, I do remember this guy, but I don't remember his name and his specialty and all the facts behind it. But while they're having a drink, a drone is seen watching the two guys catch up. And Will even mentions it, which I think is a good job by the writing team to acknowledge something that is clearly happening instead of ignoring it. I always think that's like, how do you not know what we know? From the drone, we then see who's controlling it or where it's being controlled from, and we realize that the number 2 guy from the gambling ring is now the number 1 guy. And at this point, I'm beginning to piece it all together. Like, I'm not perfectly there yet, but it's beginning to make sense. And especially when Will's old teammate goes to attack him, that makes it extra clear what's happening. Then we meet, after Will not even accidentally, but in self-defense, takes out his old teammate, and the cops, they let him go because everybody in the bar that they were having the drink at were like, oh yeah, I mean, clearly that guy attacked him first, and it didn't make any sense, but, he didn't start this. So the cops let him go.
Thank you for being here at Mr. Super Oz. This video is going out, and this channel only exists because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics, which first release was Everlasting Survivors, a 68-page graphic novel called All Day Long. Available now. Follow the link in the description that will take you to gamblecomics.com. While there, you can get hats, shirts, posters, much, much more, but most importantly, the story itself. Coming soon from Gamble Comics, BC Brute.
And his dad, Frank, takes him home. But when Frank and Will pull up to the house, another one of Will's old teammates is there. And Frank, being very prepared, pulls a gun on this guy. He's like, I ain't gonna let my son fall into that same situation again. Only Will is too kind, too trusting, and he tells his dad, "Oh, put the gun away. This is my friend." And basically, Frank's like, "And you thought that other guy was your friend, so I thought that was another good touch when it came to writing that acknowledges the actual story and not just being naive and able to fall for anything or willing to fall for anything." So Will gets in the car with this other former teammate, and he's like, "Oh, everything will make sense once we get to this location." Will also realizes what I began to realize, that okay, so if one teammate came after me, then maybe this one will too. And during the course of conversation, it's basically what it all comes out to make sense, where the gambling ring folks are now gambling who of these bail enforcement agents are good enough to beat one another. And once or while it was playing out that the rich people were betting on the not rich people as to who would kill and who would live and who would die and how it would go, I began to think of an old TV show that was on a streaming service that I don't think still exists, which was Sony Crackle, called Chosen. Not The Chosen, which chronicles Jesus's disciples and his ministry, but chosen as in you've been chosen by, I'm going to just say, the wealthy or the top 1% to play like the deadliest game where it's either kill or be killed. And so once I realized that's what this version of the Condemned was, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's very fun. The idea that the Condemned don't have to just be death row convicts put into a fight, but in this case, these 6 men have been condemned by an elite cadre of people with money to go at it and see who has what it takes to make it. And so, in the second fight, Will is able to, unfortunately, take out his old teammate, but this time there's no witnesses. There's nobody to say, oh yeah, it was self-defense, which, we know as the viewer it was, but the drone sees that he got the guy, and now that Will's understanding what's happening, he then goes to, he's now ready to go, basically. Because there's still an explosives expert, I forget his name, there's a sniper who's shooting at him after he takes out his old friend, and then there's finally an older gentleman who is from Frank's generation, from when the bail enforcement agency, I don't know if began, but at least got successful. And so for a great portion of the middle part, those guys are going at it, the explosives guy, the sniper guy, and the elder statesman. I was very surprised and pleased by the idea that eventually Will is able to convince the explosive guy, after he stops them from killing them, to link up with him and the elder statesman, and those two, or those three, work with Frank to take the fight to the top 1%, the rich folks, the people who supposedly have so much money that they don't know what to do with. I'm like, I've never understood that idea, that it's like, oh, I have so much money, in fact, that I'm going to waste that money that I have doing a thing that is both pointless and cruel. Like, I guess that's just the definition of me being a have-not, that I don't have so much money that I can just do absolute ridiculousness with it. Not that I want to, but it's just like, it blows me away, the idea that that's even a thing. But here's the important thing. With Will working with the elder statesman, the sniper, and the explosives expert, Now, the sniper always stays against and tries to win, but doesn't. But with him working with his father and the other teammates, they're able to go to and stop the bad guy who took over the bad guy game. And when the cops show up this time, because they're working together and not in an adversarial way like the prior first two, they're able to make it make sense. It's like, oh wow, I can't believe all of you were targeted in this way. Long story short, Will does not get arrested, even though all this stuff has happened, because it was a manipulation, not something he did out of motivation. And with that, all that is to all that was said to end up here to say, with my lowered expectations and it exceeding said expectations, I thought it was good. I thought it was a 4 out of 5. It didn't have the shaky cam problem of the first one, so that's already an improvement. As far as now, I won't say that any of the characters are as good or better than the first film. I feel like the first film had more standout characters, but these ones weren't bad. They just, it's hard to have a Stone Cold Steve Austin personality, and it's also hard to, without hiring Vinny Jones, it's hard to have that kind of presence, or Manu Bennett the same way. Like, the people in the first film were just different than this one. But it's not like anybody in this one was bad. Like, I thought Eric Roberts was, like I said, a very relatable father figure in the fact that he had expectations, and when you don't meet them, he's gonna let you know. And Randy was better here in this bail enforcement agent or man who wanted to get out of the bail enforcement agent role than he was in 12 Rounds 2 as an EMT. And it might just be time, it might be experience, but like I just thought he was better here than in that one. And so yeah, this was a good 4 out of 5 stars. WWE Studio. No, I didn't really slam it all that much. I mean, I was surprised by things and I didn't see things coming, but that's on me. And yeah, thanks for watching. Come back all week. Later.